Coming up here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports, Bleacher Report recently released an article that has 3 minimum contract players still left on the free agent market. Should Brad Stevens end up signing them? I'll give you guys my reaction. On the back half of the show, I want to give Jaden Springer some love for what he did during Summer League and what his future kind of looks like with the Boston Celtics moving forward. I am your host, Allie Barefoot. Let's go ahead and hop into that Bleacher Report article for minimum free agent targets. Coming in from the Charlotte Hornets, we have Dāvis Bertāns. I don't know if this is going to be a good fit. When you're looking at a guy like Bertāns, obviously playing for the Charlotte Hornets, one of the more bad teams in the NBA, you don't really want a guy like that coming into the Boston Celtics, especially when Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla have really crafted this love for good two-way players. And Bertāns just isn't that. When you look at his stats, though, from what he did this last year, got to keep in mind the Hornets, they kind of sucked. He did almost average 10 points per game, about 2 rebounds per game, 39% from the field, 37% from the three-point line. That is what I like. But here's what I don't like about Bertāns. He is only good at three-point shooting. And thankfully, the Boston Celtics are pretty set in that category when it comes to the box score, from Jason Tatum down to Sam Hauser. They can all shoot threes pretty well, especially when the Boston Celtics just went out and got you Shireman. Shireman and Sam Hauser tend to have a similar skill set when it comes to shooting from downtown. Well, that's Bertāns' main role here as a small forward. I just don't think there's really any room for him. And yeah, it might be great just to beef up and get somebody from the outside, but in the same breath, no. They're signing everybody from the team last year. So overall, when I look at a guy like this from Bertāns, who's really only good at three-point shooting, and even then, 37% isn't that great, considering Sam Hauser shot 42% from the three-point line, and we have Sam Hauser. So overall, it's a no from me, dog. To quote the great Randy Jackson from American Idol, I'm not going to take Bertāns. I don't see him picking up anytime soon for the Boston Celtics in free agency, but we continue. Number 2 is going to be Jae Crowder, more of a fan favorite. Why? Because he has been a Boston Celtic once before, back in 2017. Jae Crowder, who's been with a couple different teams in the last few years, but obviously he's a defensive menace, and he could end up shaping up more so on the wing part. And when you look at what he did last year for the Bucks, he was obviously a role player. He played 50 games last year, averaged 6.2 points per game, 3.2 rebounds per game, shot 42% from the field and 35% from the three-point line. This is going to be your average role player coming on to help the Boston Celtics. But I do believe that when you look at the depth chart in terms of the wings, of course, you got 2 of the greatest. Jason Tatum, you got Jaylen Brown. You can move in Sam Hauser. You can move in a couple players like that. But Jordan Walsh is at the end of that depth chart. And Walsh seemed pretty iffy at Summer League. So if you're really looking to hone in and make sure any wing depth that you have is going to be secure, you could pick up a guy like Jae Crowder. I'm not very high on Jordan Walsh right now when it comes to those garbage time minutes, when it comes to the end of the bench. And the Celtics could always use wing depth. This has been something they've been looking at since last year's NBA trade deadline. Jae Crowder, who has played for a couple different teams, I could see this end up working out and having a good relationship, just like he did with Boston way back when, the 2017 through 2020 era, I believe, or 2019. I don't remember exactly how long he was on the Celtics. But nonetheless, if you want to add a little bit of wing depth, I would take Jae Crowder. And the third realistic option here was Dennis Smith Jr. And the point guard position, I've always wondered, because Jrue Holiday, obviously one of the better point guards in the NBA, obviously defensive menace. And then you got Payton Pritchard, who I absolutely love this last year. Then you could put Derrick White in there from shooting guard and move him to that point guard position. But after that, you got Jaden Springer. And then you've got J.D. Davison. Well, somebody like Dennis Smith Jr. actually would not be a bad pickup for the Boston Celtics. Averages 6.5 points per game, 3 boards, 3.6 assists per game, and he shoots 43% from the field. Overall, this is actually a pretty good ball handler. He's known to have a lot of good instincts on defense. He's known to have good handles, and the point guard depth is just a little bit shallow. That is, if you don't want to put Derrick White from the shooting guard and move him up to the point guard, well, then you got Springer and you've got Davison. But here's the thing. Springer, in my opinion, is shaping up to be a dog. I've actually really enjoyed watching Springer play in the Summer League. He only played 1 game, but that was enough for me to know this man is too good to be playing in Summer League, and that's what you want. So overall, I don't think there's going to be any room for Smith, and that's unfortunate. So I'm going to have to pass on Dennis Smith Jr. I think the Celtics already have enough resources in their hand, and I do think Springer can end up shaping up to be a pretty good asset for the Celtics in this next season. I'll talk about that more in just a few moments. But if you guys had to pick one, This was a minimum free agent target the Boston Celtics could go after. This is an article made by Bleacher Report. Pick one that you would like to have in the Boston Celtics. Type DB for Dāvis Bertāns, type JC for Jae Crowder, type DS for Dennis Smith Jr., and let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section down below. But like I said, Jaden Springer shaping up in Boston. How long is he going to stay here, and how well will he be in that point guard depth for the Celtics moving forward? We're going to break that down in just a few seconds, but we're going to take a nice little subscriber break here. I want you guys right now, if you're not subscribed, just hit that thumbs up. Well, you can like the video too. Hit that subscriber button for me. Join 38,000 loyal subscribers here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. We go live once a week. We go live for every single Boston Celtics game. We have a great fan base, and we really would appreciate it if you guys could help us get to 39,000 and hit that sub button. Do it right now, and let's hop in to Jaden Springer. Springer played his way out of Summer League. Once again, that's what you want. When I saw Springer, I thought immediately he was too good to be playing. And he was still going up against the Miami Heat with Jaime Jaquez Jr., who obviously is too good to be playing in Summer League. He only played one game, but what he did in that one game, he played 25 minutes, dropped 23 points. He was a leading scorer for the Boston Celtics, 6 assists, so he was doing all that while still dishing out dimes. He went 8 for 15 from the field, and he shot 50% from the three-point line. Jaden Springer was in his bag, and this was going up against the Miami Heat with Kel'el Ware and Jaime Jaquez Jr., so they had some good players on their roster. Could Jaden Springer earn himself more minutes this year? Overall, I think yes. Jaden Springer, who which Smitty confirmed, is now entering into his 4th year in the NBA. Brad Stevens wanted him from the Philadelphia 76ers at the NBA trade deadline, and he has played a few garbage time minutes for the Boston Celtics this last year, but I want to focus on why he could earn some minutes. Look at the point guard depth. When it comes to Jrue Holiday and it comes to Payton Pritchard, they're some of the best in the NBA when it comes to 1-2 punch of a point guard depth chart. I love what they have done this last year for the Boston Celtics. Like I said, Derrick White, you can move him from shooting guard, you can put him at that point guard position, he can be very versatile in both positions in the backcourt. Then you got Jaden Springer and J.D. Davison. If you take Derrick White out of this equation and completely focus him on the shooting guard position, you can move Jaden Springer up. And I would like it, Payton Pritchard, who's probably also going to get more minutes here this year, and they're not going to have any more minutes than Jrue Holiday, but Jaden Springer could find himself in a third rotation type of deal with Joe Mazzulla in the Celtics roster if he continues to improve what we just saw from Summer League. Because in 2023, Jaden Springer actually played 130 total minutes in 17 regular season games after being acquired by Boston via that trade deadline. So he has only merely scratched the surface of what he can do here for the Celtics when it comes to his two-way playing. I like his defense. He's very fast. I like his ball handling skills. And the number one thing that I noticed when I watched him at Summer League, he is a natural floor general. And that's great when you've got somebody coming off the bench. That's what Payton Pritchard is. Payton Pritchard's a dog. When he comes in, he does not think of himself as a bench player, that I've got to get my rhythm. He comes in, and he immediately changes the pace of the game. That's what Springer could do, the more confidence and the more reps that he could get. But he will be an unrestricted free agent in 2025 and 26. So he only has one more year under the Boston Celtics contract, and then he will be required to possibly either enter free agency or he could get another contract extension or some new deal that Brad Stevens could offer Jaden Springer, but he's got to prove it. That is why this year will determine if Springer stays in Boston, what he determines and how much he plays and what he does while he plays, because you got to think of Payton Pritchard, who was in a similar situation as Springer. Last year when they extended him, he popped off in the preseason. That's why they called him Preseason P. He was phenomenal. But then in the regular season, he started to have some woes. He overcame that, and he actually ended up completely changing his playing style and was a versatile two-way point guard for the Boston Celtics. If Springer takes advantage of those minutes that Joe Mazzulla gives him, I could see him staying in Boston for a few more years. But what do you say, you? What should Boston do with Jaden Springer? Should they invest in this point guard who's still very young, 4 years going into his 4th year in the NBA? You tell me, should Boston invest in Jaden Springer? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments section. You talk about it, I talk about it. Let's talk about it together. And as always, go on ahead and hit that sub button for me if you guys are not. Help us go to 39,000 loyal subscribers here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports, and subscribe.